I've always liked the look of twin-cylinder model engines, and when I heard so much good stuff about DLE from other flyers, I had to get one. And that turned out to be a very smart thing to do. The DLE-40 comes with the standoffs and its mounting plates, but they don't supply the bolts. I epoxied a 3/8 inch thick piece of plywood behind the standard firewall, so I would have needed longer ones anyway. I found out why DLE carburetors are liked so well by modelers. They're very easy to work with, and they respond to adjustments very well. Many years ago, I had a plane fall out of the sky when the carburetor got plugged up by some junk in the fuel line. I always run a filter in line to the carburetor. This is very cheap insurance. The only change we made to this motor is when a friend installed a set of NGK's CM-6 spark plugs. I think if you look at a bunch of DLE motors, you're going to see a bunch of these plugs in them. The DLE Twin 40 fits pretty well in my 26% yak cowl, but I did have to open it up for the exhaust and the spark plugs. Letting extra air through is a good thing anyway. The plugs have to come out to get this cowl off, so I didn't fool around trying to make a small opening here. Plus, this makes it a lot easier to check the plugs should we have a problem down the road. Even though I'm flying this engine pretty slow and very rich, we're not getting a whole lot of oil on the plane, and it's easy to clean up. And this was taken in the morning when I was ready to take the yak out for the first time with the cowl over the DLE-40. Adding the cowl did richen it up, but a couple of quick adjustments and we were all better. I'm using a 16-ounce tank, which is giving me well over 10-minute flight times. So even though I'm using an old-school hand pump, gassing the plane up isn't a big deal. One of the welcome surprises with the DLE-40 is that after getting it to pop with the choke on, it generally starts on the first or second flip afterwards. And for subsequent flights, if the motor's still a little warm, it often starts on the first flip without choking it at all. Now that my yak weighs 7 pounds less, it's a lot easier to handle getting off of the starting stand. And you can see here that we're getting the idle down far enough that it doesn't roll away while I go back to get the radio. And even though the DLE-40 is running very rich, it still has plenty of power to get an 11 or 12 pound airplane down the runway and into the air pretty quickly. And once it does get into the air, when I start making a turn, it usually leans out a little bit more and the RPM picks up. One thing I like is that even though it's flying about 2,000 RPM less than it'll have when tuned up all the way, it still has pretty good vertical. I'm using a 2010 XOR prop, and we're going to leave it at that for a while until we get it good and broke in. Then we'll start playing with props to see which one it really likes. Over the last couple of days at the field, the idle has gotten a lot lower and more stable, and that makes landing a lot easier. And the landing gear likes not carrying around that extra 7 pounds of weight also. And every once in a while, we'll just leave it wide open and make a pass to clean it all out. I only leave it full throttle for several seconds at a time, but it is sounding better. So if you're looking for a gas motor in the 35 to 40 size, you need to take a look at the DLE-40 twin gas engine. I just can't say enough good things about how this motor performs, how it looks, how it sounds. I'm very surprised at how easily it starts and how little gas it uses. And on top of all that, it's priced nicely.